You do. Congratulations. It is a 2-1 decision for the negative. I was a squirrel. The ultimate problem I have in this round is understanding that where to pull the trigger to do. I think that there are a lot of places in which you're doing a little bit more work on why that's the end of the round. It does a lot of work, but you're just extending a lot of arguments here. But when we look at skepticism first, you're telling me skepticism is more important than fairness, and then fairness, you're telling me fairness comes first, and I don't really know what to do with that. So I didn't really look at the skepticism debate. On the fairness, on the theory, your sense of fairness, your answer to his argument that we do not have to look at your theory shell because and textuality and the resolutional arguments because he can't know the biases coming in and can't verify it. And your answer is, right, that he should have to show us that we are biased. He should have to demonstrate that. And I don't think that really speaks to, I think he's right in the 2AR, that doesn't really speak to the argument that it's not whether we are biased, it's whether he can know whether we're biased and whether he should even engage in these resolutional debates. So I'm willing to give him leeway on that. Okay. The place where so this then gets us back onto the AC for a second. Though I still think there's a question about the fairness voter that I'll turn back to. Then I have a real problem on the AC because you're extending these arguments about how the criterion must come first, right?
Right.
And the implication of that to me suggests, and this then gets back to, does the criterion come before the theory of fairness, etc. I have to look at this sort of criterion debate, and I'm willing to give him leeway on the extension of the criterion. I get your argument that's sort of questioning the warrant coming out of Guinier and Torres, but I'm at least willing to give him leeway on the analytics of that as having a criterion in the round. I think the extension of the whys, and I don't remember the Calarasso, I think is the name of the author. I think those are very important to the round. I think those are very important because, and this, this is how I understand the 2AR saying, first of all, that whys establishes that we have to act to change, like, i.e., that is my role as a judge in this round. And the Calarasso says, I have an obligation to try to recognize when someone is speaking out against the cycle of violence. And then what we have left on this debate is, the several arguments that you are labeling terms that you were extending about the various different things that will happen, right?
Yeah.
And the way I understand that is being, the criterion is constructively engaging with, engaging with the oppressed. I don't know if that's the exact terminology, but that's what I have flowed. And when I have the 2AR giving a thing that I am speaking from my social location, for me, this is the ultimate problem with the arguments you are extending, is that they are not answering this question of whether those arguments speak to social location or not. I.e., you may be constructively engaging. For example, the debate has done a lot of good for me, and I have made friends, and it helped me get into college, but it's not answering the question of whether your social location is at the same place. And that's why those arguments, I'm looking at all of them, and I'm not sure. I looked at each one. And I'm like, okay, is this a reason why you at least meet his standard as well? And then I could go back to permissibility.
Okay.
But I don't feel like any of those. I feel like you are extending that this is it's like one of those classic. This is a turn, but you're not telling me why that turn links back to standard. You're labeling it a turn, right? But you're not telling me why that. And I think he's doing pretty good work off of the whys in Calarasso about why his particular experience is constructively engaging and meeting the standard.
Okay.
So I actually have really enjoyed this matchup the last 2 times I've seen it, and I would say that I think the primary difference between the last round and this round for me is that I think that Nathan, I thought you spent a lot more time in terms of actually going through the role of the ballot and the framework, and I think that was very advantageous for you in this round. And Jalon, I think that some of the arguments you made last round really clearly that I was really on board with, particularly the text is oppressive, or appealing to text is oppressive argument, I felt was a lot weaker in this. And ultimately, I actually end up evaluating skepticism because I am very convinced by your arguments that theory is not an issue in this round. And I don't really buy a lot of the offense that Nathan is trying to provide on the affirmative case. And I sort of empathize with your attempt to like sort of like engage this debate of social location. And I think that there could have been like more issues there, but I understand that there is an attempt. But the real issue for me is that the articulation I get from Nathan on the skepticism debate is that it's not related to the text of the resolution. It's related to the normative, the mandate, the call to action, so to speak, that Jalon provides me with. And I think that, Jalon, the arguments you make in the 1AR on this are so much better than the argument you make in the 2AR. And if you had just made those like if you extended the sort of like, this uses a philosophical conception to like maintain the sort of the dominance of like these like white men and that kind of thing, that argument to me is like a really good one, and it's confusing to me why it's not in the 2AR. And if it is, I think you win, but ultimately I end up voting on skepticism.
All right. So you vote on skepticism because you think his skepticism argument links into the AC, or
No, I think that skepticism functions as essentially just like, it doesn't obviate any of the offense you're extending. What it does obviate is the link between your offense and the ballot.
So does in the 2R, does he apply skepticism to the AC?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so I agree with that, but I ended up like deciding to, like Rebar said, there were a lot of different places, or maybe it was Anjan said, there were a lot of different places that were open to pull the trigger. So two things. The first is that I actually, I ended up saying like it doesn't matter because I actually ended up voting for Nate, or deciding I can vote for Nate in the AC. But I want to talk about theory for a second because, so first of all, I think that personally one of the problems I have with your rejection of theory, with the idea of not knowing our biases pre-round, and the example of Nate talking to Rebar, is that you also in Nate's response is that he doesn't know your interactions with us pre-round, and you know that I sent you a Facebook message after the VBD stuff, congratulating you and instituting my support. So I have personal reason to believe that is the case, and that there are reasons that you would maybe know pre-round biases or something like that. So that being said, and I also think that Nate's argument is kind of saying that there's no reason why you can't engage about why it would be more fair for like he's not there. Why it would be more fair for us to talk about the issues brought up in the AC than it would be to talk about the text, right? He, at least in my understanding of the articulation Nate is making, is that you could have engaged the theory shell that way, and so that it is fair for us to talk about these injustices happening as articulated in the AC.
Which one of those arguments though answers the seventh argument off the first intention that is dry in the NC?
Right. So that. Well, first of all, the way those are articulated by Jalon is through the things about not knowing pre-round bias, right?
Yeah, it's
and
about,
you know that I have no pre-round bias because I sent you a Facebook message.
No, that's not the argument. The argument is you could have still sent me the message and still signed up anonymously.
Okay, I could have, but I didn't. Second, we can ignore that whole thing, and I want to talk about the AC. I think that there is no reason that I see coming out of the AC as to why the impacts need to be very explicitly in the way you make them. You brush off completely his the discursive impact of you saying, let's not care about the fact that he's faced anti-Semitism, right? And you just are not adequately responding to the anti-Semitism argument, also, the third turn that he makes when he kind of groups the AC, I think is actually really convincing, and something that is immediately what struck me when you started reading the AC. Not that that influenced me before you made the argument, but that I would be okay with saying he's reading this AC, he is facing injustices, I have to vote for him. The problem is that in debate, that doesn't just benefit you, it harms another person, and he's saying he's not warranting that harm. Debate has done good things for him, and he wasn't even, on the DVD boards. There's no reason why, it's a double-edged sword. I cannot pick you up and Nate up. I have to do something bad to Nate in order to pick you up.
So my question is, under that calculus, under the AC, I'm reading evidence from Reed that says women don't have to be discriminated in debate anymore in the at-large process. I'm also reading evidence from Colorado that says you have to actively speak out against the community. Even if you're buying his anti-Semitism argument, there's weighing done in the 2AR against those arguments. Okay. How does that outweigh?
Well, two things. One is that you don't touch upon the fact that he explicitly calls you out on, you say those are not important.
And the rhetoric of those are not important, I think is really important because that seems to contradict your advocacy. But second, you know, that still doesn't answer the fact that I have to do something really bad to Nate. I have to drop him, which means that ends his debate career right here in order to pick him up, which is what that third argument says. He is not to blame for this. And there's no reason why I should be punishing him. Yes, I want to vote for you because of the AC, but there's no reason to punish him to do that, and I have to do that.
Wait, so he's not speaking out against you judges via Colorado. I am. So you end my career because I decided to talk about debates injustices.
No.
And you end my career because I saw for those problems.
No. I did not end your career because of this. I don't vote for it because he is saying there's no reason for me to why should I punish Nate because of this? Yeah, maybe I should punish everyone else in this room because they're assholes, right? But Nate is not an asshole. There's no reason that I have to do something like I can yell at everyone here, all right? But there's no reason that I have to drop Nate and do something that actually does something physical to Nate in order to correct the harm.
What about the extensions of Y's in Colorado and the AC? I think those are the justifications for why you drop Nate.
So because Nate is saying that it is not that those criticize a mindset of the community. This is not.
No.
This is why I should. College says I should pick you up, Jalon. It does not say I should drop Nate. That's my problem. Yes, the AC says pick me up. It does not say drop Nate. You know where you say I have to use the ballot to punish someone else, and that I have and this is blowing up in the RFD to be something huge that it wasn't in the ballot. But I do have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the fact that you need to answer in this AC why I should punish for someone else for this.
You're getting personal too.
What?
You're getting personal with your voice too.
Oh well, I'm getting personal. I think listen, I'm getting personal because I'm answering some questions about my RFD. Like I said, it's being blown up into something that it was not on the ballot. But all I'm saying is that it is true that I have a problem. You know, it played a minimal impact in this round because it is one turn that's made.
I just felt that, like, at least in my opinion, I didn't think Nate makes the argument that there's a distinction between him being punished by the AF and me being voted up, right? This is not playing my RFD. I'm making a statement because you want us to talk about these problems, and I'm talking about it right now. I'm extrapolating from a turn he makes. This is not those arguments are not something that I did not sign the ballot because of that. But I do want to say that I think that's important for us to realize that I don't see a reason to vote him down on the AC. I see a reason to pick you up. Okay.
Yeah.
So in any debate round where an argument is different, let's say Jalon's reading just a regular affirmative. If the negative doesn't explicitly say, well, you should vote for me, does that mean you wouldn't sign a ballot, period?
I'm not signing the ballot.
It sounds like that the justification for not voting for Jalon is so that you won't harm Nate.
I want to make my RFD very clear. The extrapolation I made from the turn is not why I signed my ballot. It is a statement I want to make to all the spectators in the room and to.
The second thing is, Jalon says I'm being discriminated against and oppressed by the ridiculous nature of what happened to me and the terrorism and harassment I've experienced in this community. And his opponent's response was, "Well, I'm sorry, Jalon, that you got racially oppressed, but I had a good time. I made a lot of friends, and in fact, I'm going to college." And somehow that's an adequate response to that? Really?
Well, I mean, those two were.
I'm just asking, is that really? Because that's what he said. That was his response to that.
That was not his response to that.
That is exactly
that was his response to a different argument being made. But I also want to say that, like I said, all these things that we're talking about are because Jalon has asked us to talk about them. The things that I
if
can talk about
somebody told me I was an affirmative action policy, I think I would probably be mad too.
I would too, and I think that Jalon should be very happy that he got here, and I think that Jalon deserves nothing but success in this activity. But in this round, I don't see a reason to pull the trigger.
I mean, what can he say? What can he say next? I mean, what's next? Oh, black people, y'all should be excited. We let you read now. What next? Jesus Christ! Somebody can say something like, "You got discriminated against, but I made friends, and it's okay."